Welcome back, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Well, today we'll be reacting to when did Britain's kings lose their power? If you're new here, this is what we do. We learn. And I think they lost their power really. Yeah, I mean, you can have your own opinions. I mean, I think Henry VIII was the last absolute monarch, probably. Charles I was probably like the fork in the road where Oliver Cromwell, of course, took over. And then, of course, later went right back to the monarchy. But I think there was a lot of restrictions and sanctions in that time, and then in future times that they take over. But I think historically we'll figure out in this video. Let's jump into it.
Today's
Oops.
SideQuest is sponsored by our dear friends over at Kingdom Maker, but more about them at the end. For now, let's think of the UK. Certainly, the centerpiece in your tapestry of admirable thoughts is going to be the king or queen, roughly 10% of the time. Yet, while
6 queens out of 61 monarchs for England, Great Britain, UK. Okay, so all basically whatever it was. So 6 queens. Lady Jane Grey, Elizabeth I, Elizabeth II, Bloody Mary. Missing 2. We'll figure it out.
While the United Kingdom remains a kingdom even to this day, the position of monarch has become essentially ceremonial, with real power firmly in the grasp of Parliament. But when did this transition happen? And how did the kings let Parliament get away with it?
I can't believe I forgot Victoria. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Well, this struggle for power has been going on for quite some time, way before the United Kingdom became united. I'm not really sure it's united now. So sorry about that. We need to go all the way back to the 13th century.
Okay.
England was its own thing back then, and like most medieval kingdoms at the time, it was in a constant power struggle between the king and his vassals. Unsurprisingly, this parliamentarian mess was started by King John, famous for, among other things, almost selling England out to Islam.
What? See, blind spot. Don't know this.
When his barons rebelled and got him to sign the Magna Carta in 1215, they demanded permanent representation in a great council, which had the right to reject any new taxes proposed by the king. Now, John tried to backtrack and wage war on the barons, but he died just a year later, and his 9-year-old son, Henry III, well, he had little choice in the matter. So, pretty much since the 13th century, the kings of England had to go through this great council to raise any meaningful amounts of money. The first time the council was referred to as Parliament was in 1236, when the now grown-up Henry tried to fund his wedding to Eleanor of Provence, who was just 12 years old at the time. But that's a minor detail. Now, this original parliament only got together at the request of the king, and its members were either feudal or ecclesiastical lords. However, Henry soon realized that these weren't the only people with money in England. Some among the merchants and the knights could be equally, if not more, rich. Henry started inviting such commoners in 1254, which obviously wasn't taken too well by the barons. They rose up in rebellion not long after, and, like with King John, they eventually sat Henry down and had him sign the Provisions of Oxford. The commoners could stay, but the king's advisors would be elected by the barons. And, crucially, Parliament would now meet 3 times per year, rather than only when the king felt like it.
So finally, we're getting some representation for the people, and the king isn't the one that says, "Okay, this is what's going to happen," or "This is what's law." It's more or less decided collectively, especially with like appointments. Interesting.
Over the next century, as the kings of England duked it out with France during the 100 Years' War, they had to earn Parliament's favour to secure funds for their campaigns. The barons were happy just to be left to their own devices, like abusing their serfs. But the commoners actually wanted to see, change. As an act of protest in 1341, the commoners assembled in a separate building from the barons. And that's how the House of Commons was born. Before long, the Commons were demanding rights like veto power over royal expenditures, the ability to draft new laws, and, dare I say it, fair taxation. In 1397, King Richard II decided to punish these treasonous demands and tried to rein Parliament in, which, as always, backfired spectacularly.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
If you don't get this reference right here, I'm sorry. That's all I gotta say, I'm sorry.
This time around, Parliament had the king deposed and gave the crown to his cousin. Then, for the next 200 years, the powers of Parliament were respected, more or less, until we get to Charles I.
And this is where the fork in the road begins.
He too tried to raise taxes without consent, and after a brief civil war, as you do, Parliament put him on trial for treason. The king argued that he couldn't commit treason against himself. He was the king, after all. And that's when Parliament got the brilliant idea of separating the idea of king and country. Charles I was judged a traitor not to himself, but to England. And he was executed. Ooh. Unfortunately, Charles's son, James II, had similar ideas about his divine right to...
And he skipped over Oliver Cromwell, who was one of the lead prosecutors, I believe, of that trial. Became, what did he become? Lord Protector, I believe. And then Oliver Cromwell's son briefly became Lord Protector. And then the monarchy then eventually took back over James II right here.
Rule. Though for him, Parliament figured out an extra spicy solution. They collaborated with his daughter Mary and her husband William, the leader of the Dutch Republic, to organize a massive invasion of England, the last such invasion to be successful. Parliament deposed James and gave the crown to William and Mary simultaneously in exchange for signing the Bill of Rights.
And that's such an interesting thing, William and Mary. William and Mary. The both of them have, like, it's very simple. Ferdinand and Isabella of Spain can be a good mirroring here.
Which conclusively established Parliament's power over the king. Eventually, the English Parliament voted to merge with the Scottish one, forming the Kingdom of Great Britain. And then, 100 years later, they also added Ireland into the mix to form the United Kingdom we all know and love.
Not really.
Now, while the days of absolute royal power are gone, you can still relive them thanks to our dear friends over at Kingdom Maker.
Is that the end of the video? Okay, we can't end it like that. We can't end it like that. This is not the United Kingdom. I mean, this is the United Kingdom of 1800, but it's not the one that we know. The one that we know is Ireland is cut at the top, and it's only northern United Kingdom, and Ireland's a separate sovereign nation. Obviously, we knew that, right? But guys, very short and simple video by SideQuest. Go check them out. Link will be in the description. Very interesting. I wish we kind of dove a little bit deeper. Some of these videos are very superficial in terms of the facts, but wish we went a little bit deeper into understanding, like, what were the I mean, I think we just skipped over a little bit when it comes to, like, the actual laws that kind of get decided with, like, Charles I was executed into the and the Lord Protectorship to then get transferred back to James II. And then the Magna Carta thing is very interesting. I'm going to look into that a little bit more. But guys, thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it this far and you're still watching with me, appreciate it. You have a great day. Peace out. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.